Hello everyone, good evening. I'm so sorry about that. Who'd have thought that I'd have to be hardwired into the internet? Now, because we are live, I'm not sure if I still sound like a robot or not. So can I pretty please ask someone to give us a comment on YouTube and let us know that we sound okay? Do we still sound like a robot or have we got the sound okay? Can someone let me know? I'm just asking. Oh, it says YouTube isn't working. Oh, do you mean the comments aren't working? Right. The comments are. Right. Brilliant.
Right.
Sarah,
Right.
we love you. Thank you so much. Okay, gang. So sorry about that. And Michelle is going to start with a little introduction. So I'm going to pass you over to Michelle. I'll take that silly banner off the bottom of the screen and let's get started.
Right, so good evening, everybody. And like Angela says, we're sorry about that little technical delay, but that's technology for you. So you'll know that I'm Councillor Michelle Walton, and that was Councillor Angela Sterling, who did that fantastic intro. And we've also got some representatives for Project Genesis Limited online as well. Just a few housekeeping matters before we start. This event is eventually now being live streamed. So we do request that all participants, whether you're going to be live on the video or through the chat function, please to be respectful to each other and be mindful of any other audience members who might be watching. We're very aware of the emotive feelings around this proposal, but we want to use this as an opportunity for questions and answers to be given in an orderly way. So please, no bad language, no personal attacks, nothing either verbal or in the chat, if you don't mind. Just a very quick background about this event. Delves Lane Division councillors had a meeting with Project Genesis Limited in May, and we asked them some questions then that our residents had put to us regarding the incinerator. We then asked them if we could have a further opportunity for an open question and answer session, and this event is the result of that. The full meeting details and the answers to the questions that we asked in May are available on our website if anybody wanted to have a look at them, and that's delves.info. We invited all of the local councillors to attend the event tonight, but some of them declined and some of them didn't respond. So for those of you, and there was a few of you who submitted questions that you wanted other councillors to answer, unfortunately we can't facilitate that tonight due to the non-attendance, but we've sent your questions on to them, and when we get a response we'll let you know. So the plan for tonight is to ask every question that we received. Some residents wanted us to ask on their behalf and others want to ask themselves. So in order to make sure that we get them all asked, we've allocated 1 minute to ask the questions and 3 minutes to answer them. And where residents asked very similar questions, we've grouped them together for the response. If we've got time at the end, we'll also ask any questions that anybody has that you feel haven't been covered. If you just want to put them in the chat function, we'll certainly raise them at the end. The applicant, Project Genesis Limited, they've assured us that they have already been answering questions that have been submitted to them, and they'll continue to do that via their website. So if anything doesn't get clarified for you tonight and you do want to get in touch with them, we will make the details available of how you can get in touch with them, or indeed have a look at their website to see what's been asked already. We'll also share the link for Durham Council's planning portal for the application for this proposal to make sure that you've got access quickly and easily to all the documents which are on there, everything that's been submitted. So we've just got a general question that we thought would raise this first, and this is from Lucy. And she asked us, why do I need to complete these here? It is not a true public consultation if we're not afforded the chance to ask questions without filling them in first on a councillor's page, and which third parties are the questions going to be shared with. So as well as Lucy, there was a few other people who have made similar comments. So just to address that, in the absence of any formal public consultation, we as local councillors felt that a question and answer session was appropriate as an interim option. So that's why we asked for this to happen. We asked for the questions to be submitted to us first so that we can make sure this event covers as many things as possible. We didn't want to use the time asking very similar questions, and we wanted to make sure there was a good variation. The questions are shared with all of you, the viewers, the applicant and their representatives, and we'll put them on our website for review. And also on our website is our privacy statement. So if anybody wants to know what's happening with the information they've submitted, all of the information's on there. So that kind of covers just a brief background on what our plans are. And we did agree to give the applicant the first 5 minutes for them to use as they wish, to either talk or show whatever they wanted to do. So I'll hand over to them now for that, or Angela will.
Because we had so many technical issues, we're just going to have a quick countdown and show you a quick 1-minute video from the applicant, just while they compose themselves after our technical issues, and then over to them for a presentation. Okay, everybody? Thank you.
Hello, Angela, can I just check that you can hear me?
Yes, we're all good.
Oh, sorry, first, I must make my apologies. This software seems to have caused absolute chaos with my tablet. Tablet's gone haywire, so I've had to revert back to my PC at the office. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't have a camera option. So, unfortunately, I can't get the cam to work. My colleague Mike's working on that now in another room, so hopefully we can rectify that. But I'm quite happy to continue, like I say, with the question and answer session as things stand. Just regards to presentation, I'm assuming everybody who's dialed in has received in one guise or another our information booklet or booklets that were distributed. Have visited the planning portal to gain obviously more information regarding the application, and also have referenced the Hownsgill Energy Centre website, where we have had an active question and answer session going for some time now. So hopefully you're familiar with our proposals. I think the best thing to do really is to jump straight into the questions and answers. Obviously, things will develop from there, and hopefully, if there's any unanswered questions, I can hopefully enlighten you on those. So, if you'd like to move across to the first question, I'd be happy to take it. Right. Can I just ask, are you asking the question, or am I reading the question? Or
if we could ask them, Mark, sorry, we just had another little technical
so we're kind of working on two machines as well. Actually,
yeah, sorry,
when I'm asking the question out loud, and then
sorry, can I just apologise? I'm having a few issues at this side. You keep dropping in and out, so if I do get cut off, I'll try and reboot things. So please bear with me.
That's also why we've displayed the questions on the screen for everyone as well, so we can everyone can read as well as listen. So just for the purposes of the recording, I'm going to read them out and put the first three questions together because they're very, very similar, Mark. So I'm going to ask these ones, and then you can have an answer. So the first one was from Nick. What suitable alternative uses have been considered given that the smaller industrial market in Consett is relatively strong, and what feasibility studies have been carried out? Sarah asked what evidence is there to support the need for an energy to waste facility in the Consett area? What other options have been considered and why has this been proposed? Why Consett? Why close to residential areas and why now for this proposal? Helen, it's quite a long one, has said the long-term health implications of such plants are well documented and truly horrific. There is a global backlash against these incinerators about how they are operated as well as the infrastructure for storing and transportation of the waste. All councillors bar one fought this election saying they were against the incinerator for the town. As far as I'm concerned, there is nothing they can say that justifies polluting Consett for the next 50 years with this monstrosity. What are the justifications? And I think that's basically these questions are really about the rationale, Mark. What was the rationale behind the proposal?
Okay. Well, firstly, just to answer Nick's question, there has been a proposal with Project Genesis since the 1990s to have an energy plant on the Genesis site. This has been seen as a necessity, really. One of the reasons being there hasn't been much investment in our infrastructure from the likes of Northern Power Grid, National Grid, etc. in Consett. We are theoretically at the end of the line as far as power is concerned. The whole town is fed from one primary sub, which is Consett South, which is obviously over by the Villarreal site. So, you know, we were looking at these proposals and have been over a considerable number of years to try and consolidate and support the businesses that we're bringing forward, like on the Genesis site and to the periphery of the Genesis site, because there is a real need for additional power. So answering Nick, basically we have considered other options. We've considered biomass. We've even considered gas CHP, i.e. combined heat and power plants. But this proposal provides the best carbon reduction fit and also deals with the increasing waste and energy deficit problems that County Durham and even the region are having to deal with respect to waste management, recycling and disposal. We identify that Derwentsside in our locality currently produces well over 100,000 tonnes of residual commercial and industrial waste per annum. And that's primarily dealt with by private waste management companies. Now, in addition to that is the C&I waste, which Durham County Council deals with, which we haven't got a lot of statistical data, but it has been accepted that material has to be dealt with in the area as well. So considering scale, considering what we have at our disposal, this small scale energy plant, we thought, and our expert team thought, would be the optimum solution for providing energy and heat on the Genesis site, moreover the Hownsgill site. With regards to the next question about evidence to support the need for an energy plant, I'll reiterate that, like I say, it's been some 30 years since an energy plant was first muted. In fact, looking at the historical records, in the early 1990s, there was a proposal and a planning application put in on Hownsgill for a biomass energy plant. That did not come forward for all it got planning because of a lack of investment. Now, again, data shows that the UK is entering a period of potential energy crisis. We've got coal-fired power stations being closed. We've got nuclear commitments and requirements not being fulfilled. And we're becoming more dependent as a country in buying our energy from other European countries and relying on European and Far East investors in investing in our infrastructure. So plants such as this will not only deal with residual waste, which we produce, i.e. we as a locale, but that will also supply energy security for the local area. We need to become more self-dependent on energy generation. The majority of countries across Europe, and I'll quote Sweden, Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, and Portugal, actually have cities and towns where their energy and heat is supplied by plants such as this. But these plants normally are on a much larger scale and are located within the town or the city. These are in some cases fueled by waste, which is exported from the UK. The plant itself, you know, in answer to the question about why Consett and why close to residential areas, we feel there's sufficient distance from the closest residence. I mean, we're about 450 metres, half a kilometre from the closest receptors to this, which is the Chequers development, or the front of the Chequers development. But we keep reiterating the plant is located in the centre of a designated industrial site. And in our opinion, it will not affect residents in any way other than the visually, as can be seen from the Chequers development. It is by definition an industrial building which will be located on a designated allocated industrial site. In answer to why now, there are increasing constraints being put on all developers, including ourselves, to produce low carbon energy. This plant will do that. It will provide subsidised heat and power for local businesses, and it will in turn help them to compete in their markets. We do have plans for a bigger renewable energy strategy on Hownsgill, Derwent View and the surrounding area through our new smart grid infrastructure. And this small scale plant will be the hub for that and provide the capital investment that's required for that. Third question about the long-term health implications. Firstly, we can't really comment on other facilities. We can't comment on how they operate or the standards that they maintain. The reliance is on the Environment Agency to do that and to regulate. We can only confirm our intentions and that we've carried out meticulous research over the last 7 years to identify a technology provider and partner who are a company called Host, who are a Dutch company, who have an excellent record of delivery, management and compliance, and are highly regarded in the sector throughout Europe. Hownsgill Energy Centre will comply fully with the strict environmental criteria, legislation and standards required and regulated by the various regulatory organisations. We appreciate that opinion, but this is based on misinformation and on something that has not yet been delivered.
Thank you for that. That's great. Thanks, Mark. We're going to move on to the next slide. I'll pass you all over to Michelle for that one. Just let me move it on a little bit.
Right, so this one, Mark, you can see on the screen. How is the use of land donated to the people of Consett by British Steel fulfilling the deemed use prescribed in the original statement of its donation of leisure and recreation? And how can the charitable trust set up to monitor such development condone and allow the land to be used for such a development when the development doesn't benefit residents, but will benefit a number of private businesses involved in the construction and running of the incinerator? And that question was asked by Lisa.
Okay, Lisa. Firstly, just to clarify, as far as the donation of the land, my understanding is that British Steel donated the land to the council, Derwent Side Council at the time. Now, what basically happens on the Genesis site is that the council, which is now the unitary authority, Durham County Council, they hold the land in trust. And upon Genesis identifying a development opportunity, Project Genesis draw that land down, obviously carry out substantial remediation works on the former steel works, because I think, as everybody knows, there was very little remediation done when the land was restored, and then bring forward these developments. So, like any commercial entity, there'll be supply, delivery, and support network. So other companies will benefit from it. Existing and new businesses in Hownsgill will employ local people, will also benefit from it. The land itself is a strategic employment site and has always been allocated for industrial use. If you make reference to the Durham County plan, sorry, I'm just taking a drink of water. To the Durham County plan, it is an allocated industrial and employment site. So the site, the plans for the site, are to house new industrial and commercial businesses, again employing local people. But the added bonus to this plant and the Hownsgill Renewable Hub is that we have the opportunity not only for the businesses to flourish, but we also have an opportunity for the local community energy company to engage with local residents and hopefully pass on the benefits of low-cost heat and power to them. One of the mainstays of this as well is the fact we're trying to raise capital investment to upgrade our energy infrastructure, which again is suffering poorly.
Thanks, Mark. Right, my turn for the next one. Brett has been on the Energy Centre website, the section that says questions answered, and he's saying and asking, you imply that the development underpins other projects, including shops, quality housing, care village and new hospital. Furthermore, you state that the development will provide new infrastructure enabling development of the contested solar farm. Could you confirm that all these proposed developments are directly linked to the Energy Centre, and should the application be rejected, the shops, housing, care village, hospital and solar farm will also not proceed?
That was consented solar farm, not contested, because it has been consented.
My apologies.
No, really, we can't say definitely that these developments will not proceed should the Energy Centre not come forward, but it's highly likely that they will need some kind of support. I mean, for instance, people might or might not know if they know the Hownsgill site, but more recently we've delivered JT Dove, which is the first new JT Dove facility to be built in the northeast. Every previous JT Dove was actually they purchased an existing unit and refitted it, so that was quite a coup. And also you have the Go Ahead Group, the bus maintenance depot and distribution depot. In both of those instances, we have had to bring forward separate substations for the site. And in one of those instances, we actually commissioned as much solar on the solar farm. And again, anybody who visits the site will see a ground mount solar array behind Go Ahead. Now, just to give you an example of the restrictions we have on infrastructure and developments coming forward on that site, we had a proposal to Go Ahead to supply solar energy for their depot, basically to power the energy requirements of that depot. Because of the poor state of the grid infrastructure, Northern Power Grid would only permit us to do what they call a back-of-meter supply, and we could not generate any energy onto the national grid because that would cause surges and cause unknown problems at the substations and the like. So we were restricted to putting a meager 28 kilowatts of solar power into the Go Ahead site. And anybody who owns a house, normally houses are designed on using 20 kilowatts of energy. So that gives an idea of the restrictions that we're encountering down on Hownsgill and in the area. And when you think about what we're trying to bring forward in the new hospital, we're actually looking at a new care village with carbon homes. We're looking at a new hotel development on the Derwent View site. And notwithstanding, again, you visit the Hownsgill site, there's still an awful lot of room and an awful lot of spare capacity for bringing forward industrial and commercial buildings. We need a really robust heat and energy infrastructure there to support those facilities. And that is the mainstay for us bringing forward this proposal. So basically, the energy facility will assist with provision of the low carbon, lowest cost heat and energy that these developments will need. And again, it's incumbent upon us from government directives, as it is in the county and as it is on business owners, to try and identify low carbon energy supply routes. This ticks the box as far as we're concerned. And notwithstanding the energy plan, which we know was always going to be the contentious element, it allows us to bring forward 7 megawatts of solar farm, battery storage, and all the bonuses that go with that. So yes, if the Energy Centre did not come forward, it is likely the hospital itself would require its own combined heat and power plant. And this plant would probably be situated on the Derwent View site next to the hospital. It would be gas powered and it would have a stack similar, maybe not in height to this facility, but it would certainly have a stack. From a visual perspective, it would be sitting on the Derwent View site, and it would probably impact more visual receptors in concert than our facility on the Hownsgill site. So in summary to that, the low cost of producing energy will be passed on to the local businesses, can only serve to support them in an ever-increasing market.
Sorry, Mark, I'm just going to stop you there. Sorry, that's a very detailed response, but we are restricting it to 3 minutes. It's gone over, that's okay. So just to clarify, it was a very detailed response, but just so we know, that, so Brett's question has been answered.
Yes.
If this application is rejected, it won't have an impact. directly on whether or not the hospital or care village will go ahead. One is not dependent on the other. I feel that we should clarify that for Brett.
Yes, but it will have an impact on the cost of delivery of infrastructure for these developments, and whether that works from a viability point of view for the Health Trust and others, that is a commercial decision.
Yeah, that's fair enough, Mark. It's, you know, like I say, the very detailed answers, which is great. That's what we wanted, yeah. But definitely need to make sure we answer all of our resident questions. So we're going to move on to the next question, and these are around consultation. And obviously people asking, why has there been no public consultation? And that's been asked by Marianne. And why hasn't there been widespread consultation regarding this? COVID-19 is not a valid excuse. And that is from Stuart. If you could answer that, please, Mark.
Well, I do apologise for that, but COVID is an excuse. And we've been told that from the councillors and from advisors. So we normally, for a development such as this, we would hold a public event. We'd hold a sizable public event. We would have earmarked somewhere like Derwentide College, so we could get, you know, quite a lot of the public in. But because of the COVID, we were restricted from doing that. We did approach Durham County Council Planning Department. They specifically gave us a catchment area where we'd be required to distribute an information leaflet, which we duly did. We then set up the Hownsgill Energy Centre website to provide a route for information and for questions and answers. I mean, again, today is part of what we are doing. We are trying to reach out to the local residents to try and allay their concerns and try and give them as much information as we can. We have recently distributed an information leaflet which went out to 15,000 properties in the area. The website's now well established, and we are liaising with yourselves, the Dells Lane councillors. And again, we've invited other councillors to engage with us. At this time, though, as much as we'd like to, we cannot hold a public consultation event for the reasons of safety. And we have always said, and we reiterate, we'd be happy to do so when it can be done so safely and within the rules.
Brilliant, thank you. And just for everyone that's tuning in, when this session is over, we will put the document that Mark's just been talking about and other associated documents, links to those under the YouTube video and in the news section on our website, as well as obviously they can come to you, Mark, as well, just to make the information as widely available as we can. Certainly. Next question, David has asked, well, has said he strongly objects to this build, and as the businesses behind it say, it's not an incinerator. How then is it listed on the UK's list of incinerators already?
The answer to that is we don't know. And in our opinion, it shouldn't be listed on a list of UK incinerators because it has not been given planning and it has not been built or commissioned yet. So that I can only assume is more misinformation that's been spread from somewhere, and I don't actually know the source where David got that information. By definition, an incinerator burns something without giving any benefit. This energy recovery facility will generate low-cost heat and power, which is much needed. So yes, it uses a furnace and an incineration process, for want of a better term, but there are a lot of benefits which come from it. Okay,
thank you. Right. Next one, I'll pass that over to.
So the next category of questions comes kind of under economics and queries on information that or Hownsgill has released to people. So there's a few questions on here, as you can see, but if we just read through it and you can answer this. What is the £30 million local investment being spent on, and the £10 million wider investment? 35 jobs are to be created, yet the planning application states 9, so that's almost 3/4 less. Which one is correct? Creation of a new dedicated community energy company generating local power for local residents and reduced energy costs of up to 20% compared to current tariffs, helping towards reducing fuel poverty. Can you give me an example of fuel poverty in concert? I wasn't aware this was an issue. Have you got any confirmation of energy costs being reduced by 20%? You mentioned only the possibility of this energy being used locally, but also state local power for local residents. As the energy is only enough to fuel 8,000 houses, how would, if it were to be local, the 8,000 homes be selected, would this be means tested or given to the houses in the closest proximity to the site? Are the 8,000 houses inclusive of the energy for the hospital? How would you know the hospital's footprint with it not having been built? And that's a question by Marianne, if you could answer that, please.
Do you want me to answer that in one line? Sorry, I'll do my best. Well, I'll try and answer each individual question as they go. Regarding the investment, the capital investment is in the plant, which is upwards of £25 million. The infrastructure needed, which will include grid connection, there will be a grid connection required, i.e. a cable between the Hownsgill site and Concert Primary, just to give backup generation should it be required. There will be a primary substation for distribution on the site, which again, the capital cost of that could run into a couple of million. District heat networks, a smart grid infrastructure, which is basically quite a comprehensive smart grid in and around the Hownsgill site and to do and view. That also includes the capital cost of the solar farm, which by our estimates is probably a £6 to £7 million investment. We also muted vehicle charging points on the site because we do think in the throes of time that Concert is going to have a real need for vehicle charging points, and in the location of Hownsgill they can be brought forward with subsidised cost. And then we have the formation of a Concert-based energy management company or community energy company, and again there'll be quite a cost involved in establishing and setting that up. As far as the jobs, the 9 jobs that were cited in the planning application are purely operational jobs. So these are staff who will just operate the facility from day to day. In addition to those, we expect there's going to be job creation in maintenance, there's job creation in repair, there's going to be support engineering services required. We're going to try and gear that with local engineering companies under the supervision of obviously Host. And then you've got the supply chain of the waste management companies involved in the processing of the waste to RDF, where they have said that will create jobs and investment with them to produce the specification for the fuel. In addition to that, there'll be the construction jobs. The construction phase for this scheme would probably be 1.5 to 2 years. So there's some quite comprehensive construction jobs there. And we've also muted some apprenticeships in there as well, working with Downside College to try and deliver an apprenticeship offering in their engineering side. Now, again, because the energy is going to be generated locally, it can be brokered through the energy management company, does not need to be sold to grid, as is normally happens, at a heavily reduced sale price. So these savings can be passed directly on to the local purchasers of the energy and the heat via the new local energy company. We have had discussions with a local company based at the number 1 called Fusion for Business. They're a local company that offer transparent commercial and domestic energy brokering. So we expect them to engage hopefully at the appropriate time, and they're going to provide an education process as well in the buying and selling of energy, which again we're going to hope will benefit the residents of the town. If planning is granted, a new local energy supply will be created with its responsibility of providing the low-cost energy to the local area, and they'll provide operations and customer service as well. Right, next question. Fuel poverty. Fuel poverty, I could just refer you to Community Action on Fuel Poverty. They've carried out surveys which basically confirm that 12% of households in the northeast are currently in fuel poverty. Now that equates by their estimates to 135,000 households in northeast England. So if you take a representative ratio of that, that's the likelihood that 12% of houses in Concert are currently in fuel poverty. Now, this is characterised by low income, high fuel prices, poor energy efficiency, poor energy education, and generally the poor quality and state of houses and buildings. They also state that about 2.4 million vulnerable households in England are in fuel poverty. In addition to that, Ofgem have stated that 53% of domestic consumers are on a default tariff with their energy supplier, And by, again, being educated on this side of things, they could save up to £260 by switching suppliers. Now, the Hownsgill Energy Project will have a positive impact on the health and economic circumstances of the community by providing discounted energy and also trying to provide an education process for local consumers who often get very confused about what their options are. We're also going to be connected directly to the distribution network. I mentioned earlier a smart grid network, so that's going to remove the cost of having to use transmission costs to the national grid. Now that, in its first instance, is going to save between 5.5% and 8.5% of normal commercial tariffs. So the cost associated with the UK energy contracts derived from the wholesale markets change every 15 minutes. And they're affected by a lot of issues like local, national, geopolitical issues, weather, supply issues. Because we are going to be producing energy on the Hownsgill site.
But I think we've been on this question a long time.
Yeah.
I think you've been pretty thorough in your answer, actually.
Well, can I just have a second to finish off? Because there are 5 questions there. I mean, all I was going to sum up was, because we can acquire energy via the Hownsgill renewable site, this is going to reduce the dependency on the fossil fuel side and also the price volatility that you're subject to the markets. So that gives us a better focus on what the community energy company can sell the energy to the local consumers. And that was the point I'm trying to make. It gives us surety on cost and on sale.
Understood. Thank you. So we're just going to move on to the next question, if that's okay. These, I've kind of grouped them together because they're more really technical about emissions mainly. So Deborah's asking, what substances will be inhaled by residents? Marianne is asking, what do you mean by it only plume clean air? Can you give us the scientific evidence for this? Have you done your research about other places that have incinerators? Do you really want this for your family, grandchildren growing up in Concert? Gail asks, where is waste stored before burning, as the one on the east coast of Scotland has rubbish flying all over the nearby fields? Looks disgraceful, like an open tip. And Alan says, what is the nature of the waste input and where would any waste come from? So these are kind of technical issues that we've put together.
Okay, firstly, about substances inhaled by residents, our experts tell me there won't be. The stack emits water vapour, and that water vapour emanates from the moisture in the fuel, which will have a moisture content, as most things do. And in addition to that, it'll be harmless nitrogen. Now, this is achieved using advanced flue gas cleaning systems, the destruction of dioxins at very high temperatures, and use of a multi-cyclone and baghouse filters. The stack height in itself has been specifically designed to account for the location, atmospheric conditions, prevailing winds and the like in the Concert area. I would have to go on for hours to give you all the technical backup for that, but we can make that available. And the majority of that information is available on the planning portal in the technical notes, but you really have to read them thoroughly and drill down into that.
And I think that's the issue that we have as councillors, Mark, is that know that you've been really transparent by providing the information there, but it's just really hard for people to access. So if there's something easier and concise that we could share with residents, that would be really appreciated.
Yes, what I can do is put a descriptive together from the technical information we have from host as to how the facility will operate and basically, you know, how it will address all of these issues. I mean, ultimately, the Environment Agency have to issue a permit. And until the Environment Agency are 100% satisfied about the operation and compliance of this plant, it will not receive a permit. But I'll go on to that later about permitting, monitoring, compliance, because I do feel that's very important, again, to lay the residents' fees.
Yeah.
So just regarding the quote about pumping clean air, again, the company we've engaged is Host, and they've got empirical and statistical data from other plants that they operate with similar technologies. They ensure emissions limits, which are set by the Environment Agency and other regulatory authorities, are never exceeded and well below the target levels that the Environment Agency set. So host have their own explicit set of levels which are well below the EA target levels. The Environment Agency ensure the operators undergo a rigorous compliance and operational regime, and that would have to happen before a permit was issued. As to my family and grandchildren, all of my family currently live in Concert, and we don't intend moving away. So I hope that answers that question. Where is the waste stored before burning? The RDF, or refuse-derived fuel, is to be prepared at waste transfer stations around the northwest Durham area, of which we've identified at least 6, possibly up to 8. This is baled and wrapped and shipped to the plant in the wrap bales. It is stored inside the plant in a designated storage area, and that is all within the fabric of the building. At no time will any of the fuel be left outside of the building at any time to be wind blown or otherwise. The nature of the waste input, really, again, I would refer to the website, which gives a full explanation of the types of residual waste and the sources. I mean, again, we've reiterated it's local factories, local schools, offices, retail commercial premises, and then waste transfer stations where obviously, you know, the public, you and me, would hire a skip, put stuff in the skip, and that skip would be processed at these plants. We do reiterate this will be in local to northwest Durham, and this will be turned into a fuel before being safely delivered to the facility. Now, I think where a lot of the confusion and again misrepresentation is, some of these facilities in other parts of the country, including Teesside, only deal with black bag domestic waste. And in those instances, the bin that collects your waste and everything in it will reverse into this facility and tip into a big silo that will be crane grabbed into the furnace. Not a lot of sorting goes on with these, even though a lot of the local authorities will tell you it does. This plant specifically is being set up for this reason, so we are only dealing with the recyclates that can't be claimed and recycled. And that is quite a moot point that I think people need to absorb. It is fitting in with the waste hierarchy, which really is in full compliance where a lot of the big monster plants aren't. I think that's an important point that we need to make. Sorry, was there anything else? Safety guarantees, yeah? Or is that the next thing?
That's everything so far. What I'm going to do, Mark, is the next 4 slides are all about safety. Now, we were going to read all 4 out and let you go, but I think we'll do them 1 slide at a time. But if you could just be as quick as you can with these ones, not to speed you up, but just there's 4 of them, and I think that the answers will be very similar. So if, for example, on slide 1, you give really thorough answers, and then the next slide shows you some questions that's basically asking the same thing in a different way, don't feel that you have to repeat yourself, is what I'm saying. You can refer back to what you've previously said. So this first one, can they guarantee to prove that there will be no risk to the health of local residents from this waste facility if we were to go ahead? That's from Judith. Rachel asks, how can you guarantee that this will not affect the health and future of our homes, families and beautiful countryside? And Claire asks, what proof is there that there will be no health implications for the residents here?
Okay, firstly, yes, we can guarantee that. The operation of the plant will be monitored constantly, and we have total confidence in the technology that's being introduced by Host and in their competence as a delivery partner and as an engineering company who have, I think they have about 50 plus years experience in this technology. The specification for the fuel, again, is going to be quite a clear specification. There won't be food waste in there. There won't be any contaminants in there as such, or anything with high level of toxins or classed as special waste. The target levels of exceedance will be set well below those required for the Environment Agency. So in the highly unlikely event that any target levels are exceeded, the plant would shut down automatically in any case. So as far as exposure to the public is concerned, we have had guarantees about that. If we hadn't, we wouldn't be moving this thing forward, to be frank and honest with you. The health and future of our homes, families and countryside. Again, this is a very, very small scale development by contrast with others that are moving forward in the country. We have chosen that because of where it is, because it's constant, and because we want to mitigate the impact on the environment, on the surrounding environment. For all, we feel the plant's a necessity. As far as houses are concerned, we can only assure the operation of this plant at Hownsgill will not be the cause for reduced housing values. That's never been proven the case, and I don't think it will be. The proposed plant is well documented, and known house prices continue to rise in this area. It'll be seen from certain locations in the town, we accept that, but it is on an industrial development on a designated industrial site. Reiterating again on the health implications, strictest regulations, it's all been modelled in accordance with Environment Agency regulations and requirements. And again, we reiterate the EA will not issue any permits without being fully satisfied in all matters.
Thank you, Mark. I'm going to pass you over to Michelle for the next one.
So obviously this is a bit of a lengthy question off Maxine with a bit of background, but it's a good one. What proven 100% backed research and assurances does this give to our adults, children and baby population, as well as our unborn children, to come that our physical and mental health will not be affected in any shape or form by toxins produced by all the additional trucks bringing in waste, and then the release of toxins burning across our town and surrounding countryside? What 100% backed research is available that our air, water and local farm produce, including dairy, meat and vegetables, will not be affected in terms of toxin pollutants? Other incinerator toxin evidence found in other towns cannot be explained away. Therefore, what is your clearly defined response that building the same type of facility in Consett will be in any way, shape or form less harmful to adults, children and unborn children in the Consett area? Would you be 100% happy to live next to it or in close proximity? So before you answer that, Mark, obviously there's a lot of information on that question, but if we could just focus on, have you got 100% back that you could share? If we could focus on that in your response, please.
Again, there are reams and reams of reports on this, and there's been an awful lot of empirical evidence gathered by host and other technology providers. As far as the impact of pollutants and the like, I think each of these instances would have to be taken on its own merits, because a lot of this goes back historically, years, if not decades, when obviously there weren't the strict regulations that we receive now. The technology in these facilities has just grown tenfold, and that would be demonstrated when I've actually been to visit 2 or 3 of these plants. I actually took a trip 2 years ago across to Holland, and I actually, I touched at the bells and whistles, and they are an engineering masterpiece, to be honest with you, for all of what they do. So as far as the evidence base, I think, I'm not saying it's based on speculation. I probably can't say that, but I really would need somebody to give us an evidence to the contrary. All the empirical evidence we've been presented by host, the technology provider, has said that would be absolutely negligible impact on receptors to human health. In fact, if you look at empirical evidence, and we've actually had this cited by quite a few people, you are more likely to ingest toxins or a high level of toxins standing at the roadside than you would from a plant of this ilk. And this question as to whether I would be happy to live there, I do live in Consett, and I would be quite happy to live within proximity of this plant, but that's just a personal opinion.
Right. So these documents that you've got, have you got them available to share, or?
Well, the majority of the evidence again is on the planning portal, but yes, I can ask host to provide that. Yeah, specific to this plant, to the scale of this plant, and the location of this plant. Yes.
Okay, great.
Great, thanks, Mark. I'll just move on to the next one. Yeah, so this one's from Jason. Given the close proximity to housing, food production factories and schools, can you guarantee that the proposed incinerator will not emit any harmful emissions, regardless how small, endangering the health of the people of Consett? Given that incinerators around the UK are constantly failing to hit their emissions targets, I highly doubt this, therefore strongly oppose the planning application. The people of Runcorn are in the process of taking legal action against the council for the monstrosity of an incinerator, which was allowed to be built and is affecting the lives of residents. If this goes ahead, I'm sure similar action will follow.
I mean, firstly, it's quite difficult for us to make a comment on the Runcorn facility, because the Runcorn facility, I think it was built and commissioned in the early 2000s. And I know statistically, it deals with over 1 million tons of waste per annum. Now, if you put things into context, you know, a facility like that, which again in the industry is referred to as a battleship, if you put into context, this facility will run on 60,000 tons. I mean, you're getting onto something which is 18 to 20 times the size. And notwithstanding that, again, we don't know what fuel or waste is actually utilised at the Runcorn facility. Is it pre-treated like the waste for this plant will be? Does it contain food waste? Does it contain special waste? Again, we don't know, and we don't know how that operator is running that facility. So, I mean, all I can say in answer to that is our team, we've spent the last 7 years on this with our professional team researching such facilities, the companies which deliver them and the companies that operate them. Runcorn, I think, is one of the largest facilities in Europe, so it probably won't come out with its issues, especially to the local residents. And again, you know, this facility, very small scale in comparison. It has very, very advanced abatement technologies to ensure compliance. I mean, again, I reiterate, I've visited similar small scale facilities in the Netherlands. I visited a facility in Amsterdam. I visited another facility in Eindhoven, and another, well, it wasn't an energy from waste, but a biomass facility outside Eindhoven. These sit quite comfortably within the urban areas, and they are readily accepted by the local population in those towns. And again, it's in Project Genesis' interest to ensure the facility is fully compliant and operates safely. Otherwise, we would not be able to attract future businesses to Hownsgill, including the food processing companies either side of us, Greencorn, Symington's, who we've engaged with and continue to engage with right through this process.
Sorry, just a quick extra question from me, just for the benefit of people watching who might not have dug into the planning documents. You were talking about the Runcorn one being massive and mentioning how big it is. Just for reference, can you tell us again how big the Runcorn one is versus ours, and just how big the one that you've proposed would be?
Well, in scale, I mean, I'm just working here on tonnages. I think if you went on the website, you could see the Runcorn facility. And again, I don't know how close in proximity the houses are to the actual facility and whether there's actually a buffer, because on Hownsgill, we do have a landscape buffer between the Chequers and the Hownsgill facility. There's a natural landscape buffer on the sea to sea. I mean, we're only exposed really from a visual point of view from the south and southwest, and that's really over, you know, from farmers' fields in the A68. So, you know, those landscape buffers have been put there for a reason. But going back to Runcorn, it deals, I think some stats quoted 1.2 million tons per year. So if you look at this facility, proposed facility, considered 60,000, that is 1/20th, if I've got my sums right. And again, the feedstock for this plant is going to be quite strictly regulated. It's going to be pre-treated. It's not going to have food waste in. We don't know what goes into the Runcorn facility, how that is managed, and obviously what the impact is of that. And again, what the technological side of that is.
I'm just going to move us on because there's quite a bit left. I think you've given a thorough answer there. Thank you, Mark. I'm going to pass you over to Michelle.
So the next question that we've got is from Katie. And she says, I live in Dells Lane and I walk or cycle through Templetown every day on my way to and from work. This is important for me as it helps manage my arthritis. It is the reason I took a job in Concert. I also have asthma and I am concerned that the fumes will make my walk harder or worse, prevented altogether. Can you confirm exactly what gases will be produced by the incinerator? And can you provide evidence that the fumes produced won't affect my health in any way? So that one's from Katie. And then Jonathan has asked, can you please answer why all objections when this isn't going to cause any problems and is going to be regulated and very safe to operate?
Well, firstly, the plant, I mean, you know, the capital cost of the plant being what it is, there are millions and millions of pounds of this spent in the flue gas cleaning systems, in abatement systems, in multi-cyclone systems and the like, which basically mean that any contaminants are captured within the flue gas cleaning system and are actually encapsulated in the bottom ash. Now, the bottom ash is not a massive quantity. We estimate 7 to 10 tons per week, which basically is the size of a small skip. That is a sealed skip, and that material will be taken from the site in a sealed container and taken to a special waste landfill for disposal. Other ash that's produced is inert ash, incinerator ash. That can be recycled and used in block making, road making materials, and even in grout and the like. Again, we pump a lot of grout into mine workings in the northeast, things like that. In answer to Katie's question, the answer is no. You won't be receptive to any fumes because no fumes will emanate from the stack. You will not ingest anything from this facility on your way to or from work. Again, I reiterate, what will emanate from the stack is water vapor and nitrogen, which are basically the nitrous and sulfur oxides, which have been neutralized using additives. An additive, to get the technical term right, an additive called urea, which basically neutralizes the acids with an alkaline substance. And again, that's encapsulated within the plant, does not emanate from the stack.
Okay, so move on to the next one.
Move on to the next one, yeah. Thank you. So the next section is really what we're called kind of local considerations. And have they gone on? Sorry. Well, I'm up to.
Missed it.
Ongoing.
One, sorry.
It's the ongoing and monitoring. Sorry, I've lost the plot a bit there. So this section's about ongoing monitoring, and I know you've already referred to a few of those, but the questions are from Mrs. Holmes. The long-term effects of waste incinerators are yet unknown, but the risks to air quality, even in short-term studies near to other waste plants, show extremely high levels of invisible noxious waste. Therefore, cases of asthma, allergies, chest conditions and cancers could increase in concert if the incinerator were to go ahead. Once the long-term risks to health are proven, the new waste incinerator company may be liable for negligence and blamed for the increase in ill health and legal action taken against them. Are Project Genesis and the energy company prepared for liable cases and studies on ill health if they forge ahead against the wishes of local people? And Richard's asking, the planning application assumes that all of the proposed controls will be continuously met, that the waste being incinerated will always conform to specification, and that nothing will go wrong. What are the worst case scenarios for things going wrong? And actually, Richard's question is something I'm extremely interested in as well.
Okay, firstly, as far as objections go and the problems and regulation, I think I've said before, the Environment Agency will determine that. That's not for us to determine. It's not for the operator to determine or the technology provider. The Environment Agency will have to satisfy themselves that this is fully compliant and isn't a risk to the public or any receptors on the Hownsgill site or beyond. Any issues or concerns they have, a permit will not be issued, and regulation, I'll tell you now, is tighter now than it's ever been, and I think it's going to get tighter again as time moves on. If the plant ever operates out of the required regulations and limits, the permit would be withdrawn by the Environment Agency, so the plant wouldn't be permitted to operate. I mean, again, I must reiterate, a lot of these concerns and objections, we think, have been caused by the misinformation and I frankly could say hysteria that's being put out by some people. And notably, and I will cite the Say No campaign. We have asked to engage with them. They've refused to engage with us and have a meaningful discussion. Very disappointing, I really have to say. But, I think you've got to really take into context a lot of misinformation, a lot of photographs that have been sent out of big towers pumping out toxic fumes, etc., etc. And it's given a real misapprehension about, you know, how technologically advanced and monitored these plants are now, and how professional the people, the companies, the teams are that actually own and operate them. As far as liability is concerned.
Sorry, Mark, it was just to reiterate the fact that that's why Michelle and I were so keen to have this consultation tonight, this question and answer session. Can talk to people about your side of it, and you've got technical information that not everyone has.
Yes. Yeah.
And you also have to understand, Mark, that you know, the level of concern that people have is enormous. And I appreciate what you're saying, that you feel that that's because of misinformation, but it can't be that everybody's misinformed. So this is why it's important that when we're asking these questions about the assurances around the risk to health, about the assurances about what's coming out of the stack, about the assurances of the health of everybody in the area, they've got to be taken really seriously. And whilst your points, you know, that you're making about the environmental agency and the permit and how things would get shut down, that's a little bit too late. You know, to shut it down because something's gone wrong is too late. These assurances really need to be proven and, you know, put to the people in a very firm way before it would really ever be accepted, because the longer it goes on, more things are coming out about other incinerators and the health risk. So I think out of everything that's come out of the questions that were submitted to us, health risk is the biggest concern. So I appreciate you answered that, and you're going to give us some more information that we can share. But I just feel on behalf of everybody who has asked the questions, we don't want them to think this is just like a sales pitch for you, because it's not. It is an opportunity for people to ask the questions and for you to answer them, or provide information that people can check out for themselves. And it's not just you saying this; they can check it out for themselves as well.
Yeah. Michelle, the only analogy I can use for that is, if, you know, you and I get on an aeroplane, if we could, God forbid, you put your trust in the pilot to pilot that plane, you put your trust in the ground crew and the maintenance staff to maintain that aeroplane. Otherwise, you wouldn't get on that aeroplane. Now, you know, PGL, we take our position really responsibly. And again, I've got to reiterate the amount of years that has gone into this before we've actually made a decision to move forward with the scale of this plant, the technology provider, the professional team that are going to deliver that. And, you know, there's a lot of research gone into that. And we are putting volition in these people, but there is an element of trust there that they're going to operate it diligently. They're going to operate it compliantly. And, you know, it's in no one's interests to cause pollution incidents, because, you know, look at the investors and the owners of this plant. These guys are investing £25+ million into this. They don't want to do that and have it shut down the next week because it's not compliant. So the monitoring we talk about is real-time monitoring inside the plant. You know, monitors would activate any alarms, you know, before emissions would get to the bottom of the stack. We're not talking about plumes coming out the stack and then somebody switching the off button on. You know, the technology is so well advanced in there that, you know, this is tried and tested.
It's too late. That's kind of what the concern is. If the alarm goes off, it's too late. But listen, we could talk about that one all night, and I think we'll just move on to Richard's question, because that ties this one up for now, about what are the worst case scenarios for things going wrong.
The worst case scenario for things going wrong is the plant would automatically shut down. And basically by shutting down, that would mean there'd be no emissions coming from the plant. The plant was shut down in its entirety. This plant has, for reasons of maintenance and other things, some 2 emergency backup gas generators. These backup gas generators would be used in short bursts for maintenance, but could trigger in the case of an emergency. If that was the case, you know, this wouldn't leave developments on the side, etc., with no power, because we would have a backup grid connection which we would call on. So basically that is the backstop position if anything went wrong.
But so I think what Richard is asking, or the way I'm reading his question, is what is the worst case scenarios for the people who live nearby? For example, what is the risk of fire? If, you know, the stored if there's stored fuel items or the pallets that are coming in, what's the risk of fire and things like that would impact on everybody around it, not a worst case scenario for the people who are at the plant. What is it for the surrounding area? So the worst thing that could happen is therefore what is put in place in case that did happen.
Yeah, I mean, as far as fire is concerned, I mean, the whole plant will be having integral fire suppression systems in anyway, in any event of that. So, like I say, all of the safeguards, the fail safes, are put in, and again, that's a legal requirement of the building compliance, building regulations, but also it'll be a legal requirement of the Environment Agency, and also more than likely the local fire authority, and again, all the regulatory bodies who would have to issue the plant a clean bill of health.
All right, okay. So we're going to move on, Angela, and ask the next one.
Okay, so now we're going into the local considerations, and the first one's housing. We've got a lot of residents worried about property prices and things like that. So Wendy's asking, we bought a new home from Amethyst 18 months ago. Solicitors' land search and survey didn't flag this proposed facility. As the key private investors are Amethyst Homes, are they compensating those new homeowners who will not receive any energy benefit from the renewable facility and who A, are within the plume range, and B, may live on an uncompleted housing development if new home buyers are deterred by this proposal? Gary's asking, there is a great concern about the valuation of many houses within the reach of the possible fumes emitted from this plant once it's in full operation. There is already concern shown by potential buyers, and some are awaiting a decision on planning. If this incinerator goes ahead, they have voiced that they will not commit to purchasing within the concert area. This will drive down house values dramatically, and many will not be able to sell their homes at even a lower value, as who would buy a property when its valuation could reduce further as the area becomes undesirable for new families to live in. This fact must be considered as we are talking about so many residents, largest purchase they will ever have made, and if the incinerator goes ahead, they will be losing thousands of pounds off the valuation of their homes that may become impossible to sell and therefore not viable for mortgage purposes.
It's quite difficult to answer that one, to be honest with you. All I can say, the housing market in concert, as I know, is very buoyant. We haven't seen any detriment impact on people moving into the area since this proposal was announced. Whilst we understand your concerns, we've received a number of letters of support from certain residents in the area who understand we must take responsibility locally, A, for our waste, and B, to see the benefits in providing the energy, the heat, and the power this plant and the ancillary developments will bring. If you refer to statistics, house prices continue to rise and houses are still being reserved in advance, especially on the Amethyst Homes site at Regent's Park. And so I understand from local agents that the housing market is still very buoyant. So I can't see where the evidence base that people are being deterred from moving into concert is on the basis of this coming forward. With regard to Amethyst Homes, I'm a bit confused about the comment about key private investors, because Amethyst Homes are in no way connected to any investment in the Hownsgill facility or otherwise. Their remit is building houses on Regent's Park, and my understanding is that development should be completed in 2024, 2025. Notwithstanding, the facility itself will not be seen from Regent's Park and will not be in the proximity of the plant. So again, I really can't really get my head around where those concerns are coming from.
I'll just move that one on then, if that's okay,
Yeah.
Mark. Michelle, for the next one. Excuse me, everyone, if you see me walking behind Michelle, I need to plug my laptop in.
So this question...
I just made one other comment as well, please, Angela, just on that statement about the plume. And obviously I have seen on the Facebook page that there's this plume plotter, which apparently is this software package which apparently predetermines where a plume is going to, the far-reaching parts of concert where this plume's going to cover and obscure daylight and all of these other scaremonger things. We can't concur with that. The plume essentially, it consists of nitrogen and water vapor. When it is visible, it'll be a white vapor plume. and we have it on good authority from the providers, the designers, that this plume will dissipate within 20 meters of leaving the stack. So again, showing plumes, emanating over Castleside, over Black Hill, over Consultation Centre, very misleading and very far from what will actually will occur on the site.
Right, okay, obviously noted that one then. So this question here is from Emma. Why would you want to build this incinerator in this town, which will only cause house prices to plummet, young professionals to move out of the town to start families, and further pollute the air with HGV exhaust and fumes from the plant itself? Why not build it somewhere that's not close to the centre of a residential town? If we need to tackle waste build-up, why can't we build a recycling plant? In many Scandinavian countries, they employ a scheme where you get a few pence for each item you recycle. For example, every can and cardboard box you bring to the recycling plant, you can get a few pence, 1 to 5 pence, for example. This encourages individuals to recycle more and can also help low-income families make a little bit of extra money. This seems like a much better use of the area than burning waste and polluting the environment. And that question's from Emma. So I think we've already discussed the price, the house prices.
Yeah.
If we can focus on Emma's suggestion about us, why could we not have a recycling plant instead?
We do have a recycling plant. These recycling plants are the waste management company recycling depots that are going to basically take all of the recycled materials out of this feedstock. So we're left with a residual feedstock that can't be recycled. I think this question's probably more for the county council and whether they want to incentivise that. We can certainly look at our waste providers to see if they could incentivise that, and people could take their recycling to their facilities. So that's something we can engage with our suppliers and see if they can do that. Not a problem. As regards to Scandinavian countries, again, just in addition to that statement, in the Scandinavian countries, in the Benelux countries, the majority of their towns, obviously they have hydroelectric in Norway, in Sweden, not so much in the Benelux countries, but each of these countries, they all have dedicated energy recovery plants such as this, which provide heat and power for their towns from waste produced by their residents and businesses. And like this plant, they are powered from residual waste after having been recycled. I'll give you another instance in the UK, the Isle of Man. That's another example where the Isle of Man power station is a large-scale energy recovery facility, provides heat and power for the capital Douglas and most of the island. And again, that is solely powered as an energy from waste plant after recycling has occurred. I go back, we do know there's some plants in the country just take black bag waste as it's delivered from the back of a bin lorry, and little if any recycling goes on. This will not happen on this plant. All recycling that can be done will be done before the feedstock is delivered to this plant.
Right, okay, thank you. So we will move now. Angela will take the next questions.
No, thank you. So the next lot are all about location and why it was chosen and all around those. So there's quite a lot of questions on here, but they're short and sharp, and I think there's a lot in common. So have other locations other than Concert been considered for this away from built-up residential areas, or is it the only money that will line your pockets from from this that is of interest? Sorry, I've jumbled my words there. Not concerns of Concert residents who have put money into homes and businesses for many years, now turning Concert into a thriving town. That's from Emma. Peter asks, why are you planning on building this incinerator so close to the town centre, residential properties, and next to 2 food-making factories? Surely there are other locations away from the aforementioned where this plant can be built. Hazel asked, why was Concert considered as the proposed site for this incinerator? Diane, why Concert and not in some remote area? Claire, why would you do this to your hometown? Neil, as there are housing businesses including food production, schools and shops in the very close vicinity of this proposed site, is it really a good location for the facility or just a cheap site with business interests ahead of existing local community? And Daniel is asking, what is the rationale for building this facility so close to residential areas?
Right. We'll start at the beginning, yeah. Why concert? Again, I think I've said earlier, we feel it's a next important step in the further development of certainly the Genesis site, hopefully in the town. It will create further job opportunities. Moreover, it will give us, and I mean us as a community, the more responsibility in the management of our own waste. And it's quite easy to say, let's ship all our waste to Teesside, but if you're a resident in Teesside, do you want to receive all of the waste from County Durham? I think not. Notwithstanding, the opportunity is there to use our waste to produce heat and power, low carbon, low cost heat and power, and why not use that to support our businesses in Concert instead of supporting the businesses in Teesside? As far as Project Genesis are concerned, I think I mentioned earlier, Project Genesis, since it was created, has levered in, I think by our estimates, over £220 million worth of private investment in the Concert area. And this has been with little or no government help, and again, not a lot of help really from the county authority. So that's all private investment that PGL's attracted into the town, and I think you'll all agree it's been a fundamental point in the regeneration of the town and contributing to the regeneration of the town. So we don't take these decisions lightly. Project Genesis will not invest in this facility directly. It will not take a profit from the facility, though we will seek funds from the investors and the operators. But those funds will go back into providing public realm, into further investment in the Genesis site, and obviously in a lot of the community support we do, into donations to community projects, etc., etc. I'll give you an example. The recent Steelworks Memorial that we delivered next to Tesco, which was funded by Project Genesis from development receipts, and that was at the behest of the locals, obviously to bring forward a Steelworks Memorial for the anniversary. Again, I'll reiterate, it is on an industrial site. If anybody has any ideas about a better location in the town, please let us know. We've put it on this industrial site because the site has capacity for more development, and that development is going to need support in energy, discounted energy and infrastructure. Again, the plant will have no environmental impact on local residents or businesses other than to provide heat and power, which would otherwise be produced elsewhere, and I quote Teesside to that. And again, only the residents of Teesside will benefit from the heat and power generated from Northwest Durham's waste. Add to that the increased transport costs and the emissions that come from transporting all our waste down to Teesside and back. Pardon, that's my phone. The environmental harm that will create. Again, I'd be happy to hear any suggestions for alternative locations. That would be well received. As far as the proposed site being Concert and being the Hownsgill site, it fully complies with the 2020 Durham County Council plan, their policy for waste, and also in meeting the needs of the waste hierarchy, in that we should be dealing with waste locally. Instead of transporting it abroad, transporting it to other plants in the UK, often hundreds of miles, which we don't see any sense in.
Okay, well, I think we'll move on to the next batch of questions, if that's okay. I'll just pass you over to Michelle.
So the next question is around deprived areas, and why is it that in deprived areas such as Concert are these incinerators are more likely to be built? And there is a link there if anybody wanted it. There's actually some documented information on this, that they select deprived areas to build them.
Well, firstly, from a location point of view, this facility needs to be within a reasonable proximity of receptors to be of benefit. So I mentioned before, we talked about district heat networks, we talked about smart grid. They've got to be in close proximity, basically, so you're not dealing with energy traveling long distances, so you have heat loss and energy loss. Again, we believe, and our data tells us that the facility of this kind and the renewables proposals are an absolute necessity to help Concert move forward and develop further into the next century. I really don't concur about Concert being a deprived area and that these plants are focused in deprived areas. We focus this plant on this site, and again, I know I'm going on like a broken record, but it's to deal with our local waste, take responsibility, but this is going to assist further regeneration and development of the Hownsgill site in the periphery, and that can only bring prosperity for the Genesis site and for the town. Just to give you an indicator of where similar plants, but similar, slightly different scale plants are being brought forward, of which our consultant team and our planning team are involved. There's plants coming forward at Poole in Dorset. There's a plant coming forward in Kidderminster. There's a one in Falkirk in Scotland, one in Wolverhampton, one in Lowestoft, one in Reading, and even one in Basildon in Essex. And of course, there's a big plant being brought forward in Redcar, which is being brought forward by a consortium of Northeast local authorities. So again, I can't concur that it's being cited here because we're a deprived area. It's being cited here because we think there are some real benefits in it being cited here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Right, we're on to our last two questions here. And then we've got some members of the public waiting. So thank you for being patient, everyone. So this next lot are more about eco concerns. So Claire is asking, incinerators are a massive waste of energy and they contribute to climate change. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, waste to energy incinerators and landfills contribute far higher levels of greenhouse gas emissions and overall energy than following the reduce, reuse, recycle mantra. Can you advise why one is being proposed in Concert, taking into account the above statement about the effect on the environment? Then Mr. Holmes has asked, how can such a plan be considered to do near the Heritage Walk in this area of Hownsgill Concert? It has many deer, hawks, bats and other protected. The RSPCA and RSPB have been consulted and will also make a statement against this proposed monstrosity. It will not bring jobs to Concert. It will stop people wanting to live here and pose a great risk to physical and mental health. Aren't Project Genesis meant to be environmentally friendly and trying to make Concert green, healthy and prosperous? This incinerator goes against all they have promised. Why?
Well, firstly, whilst I fully understand the concerns in these questions, I think the question everybody has to ask is, if the country, the county and us as a region are not dealing with our waste in an energy recovery facility otherwise, what are we going to do with it? So the first question really is to ask, what are the alternatives? And evidence tells us that there are very few alternatives. Currently, we, i.e. the UK, still ship millions of tons of waste to Europe, where it's actually purchased by European countries to use in their energy from waste facilities. What doesn't go there goes into a landfill or in a facility in our country. So it seems from that data that there doesn't seem to be a lot of alternatives currently. And if circumstances change, we'd quite gladly take this on board. And I think obviously a lot of other waste providers and waste management companies would. This plant, and I said before, unlike some other plants that simply take black bag waste without it being sorted, is only fueled following the removal of all recyclables possible. And again, this is strictly in accordance to the waste hierarchy that's set out at national level and at local level. The other question I would ask on this, if there is an alternative, why are Durham County Council and 5 other local authorities supporting a similar technology plant in Redcar that apparently will deal with up to 450,000 tonnes of domestic black bag waste? Again, I'd pose that question and ask people to think about that and research that. In response to Mr. Holmes, just regarding the ecology, the heritage side, we have carried out detailed studies on all of the ecology and wildlife on the Hownsgill site and in the periphery. There's been detailed assessments carried out. There is a proposal to put in bat roosts, and there's also other mitigation measures lined up to help, obviously provide amenity for any displaced animals, but we don't feel that's going to be the case because the plant itself is on a brownfield site. The brownfield site's going to have to be remediated and reclaimed, and currently there is little, if any, vegetation on the site itself. It's all in the periphery and in the buffers. I understand your comment regarding the heritage trail. It was Project Genesis basically who created and funded the heritage trail, which I think has been a huge success for the local residents. Moreover, in lockdown, when I think the footfall has been fantastic, I had some fantastic and positive comments from people, notwithstanding the link to Allen's Ford and taking people off Pemberton Road and off that dangerous road down to Allen's Ford. So that's been a massive success. And we don't feel anything in these proposals will prejudice that and people's enjoyment of the heritage trail or any of the public realm areas that we've created. And, we will continue to create, but we need to generate funds for that. And we can only generate funds for the creation of public realm if we are attracting investment into the Genesis site and into the town. We're duty bound to create and look for all low carbon options open to us. And currently, the statistics we've been given, the models we've been given, this is probably the lowest carbon proposal that we could produce on Hownsgill with all things taken into consideration.
We'll go to the last pre-prepared question here, and then we've got people waiting in the wings. Over to you, Michelle.
I think that is this one.
No, there's one
more. Sorry. All right, yes. Yeah. So this is a question from Lucy.
Hold on 1 second.
Sorry.
Lucy wasn't going to come because she wasn't feeling very well. So but she is here. So I'm actually going to stop the screen share and let's just get ourselves back in the room. So Lucy, I'm going to put a little timer on for 30 seconds so you can prepare yourself, and then I'm going to let you go first, if that's okay. Send me a little message so I know that you're ready.
Read.
So sorry. So Lucy sent us a message to say she would like us to ask this for her. So Lucy is asking, do any of the directors of Project Genesis or trustees of the charity who sign over the land stand to gain personally or professionally from the waste incinerator, whether that be in the provision of waste to be incinerated through their own third-party companies who are waste companies, carriers or brokers, or as a result of the energy side of it, given their already existing links to renewable tech energy firms, solar panel firms and energy-related companies?
The answer to that is no. All we will do is continue to support concert businesses who employ local people if and when we can. And that basically is our mission.
Right.
Okay, so we have got we've got a couple of people. I'm going to let them introduce themselves when they come on the screen and ask their question. Right, so our first one.
Hello. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Angie, and I just wanted to ask, Project Genesis Trust holds the land which your company can draw down on. How does building an incinerator in very close proximity to the town and housing align with the charitable aims of the trust and with the purpose of Project Genesis in general? And as I understand it, the trust's aims are all to do with leisure facilities and the natural environment. Furthermore, Project Genesis was set up to benefit the people of Consett. How was the idea of an incinerator generated, did you consult with local people to see what they would like in the area before you went forward with this plan? And if you didn't, why didn't you consult with local people? Finally, why does it seem like Project Genesis is not accountable to the people? There's obviously a massive campaign against this. And it seems like you're not really thinking about what the local people want in the area. And yeah, that's my questions.
Yeah, hi Angie. Yeah, just regarding consultation. The consultation process, this goes back to about 2014, when reps were made to Durham County Council when they were bringing forward the plan. Those reps have been repeated year after year after year until the plan was validated and brought forward in 2020. Now that was an opportunity, really. That was in the public domain. Apologise if that didn't get across to the majority of residents, but it is incumbent upon Durham to engage in that. We thought that process was it was quite thorough, and people had a say in that. The Project Genesis Trust, you're right, is a charitable trust, and the trust really are the mainstay in supporting local community projects, local charities, local schools, things like that. Project Genesis Limited, of which we work, Project Genesis Limited are the company who are charged with levering in the investment, not so much the trust. We report to the trust at quarterly meetings. We have integration with the trust, but it's the Project Genesis Limited company who are charged with levering in the investment, the development of the former site, the retail areas, the commercial areas, and in the case of Hownsgill, the industrial area. I think I've said on numerous occasions in previous responses that this is an industrial area. An energy plant has been defined and is defined on the Genesis Master Plan. We feel the scale of this plant will not impact the town as much as people's concerns are. Although we fully understand you do have concerns, and that's why we're here to answer that. We do feel it will be a benefit to the Hownsgill site. We do feel it's going to contribute greatly to future investment in the site. It's going to contribute greatly into us providing low carbon technologies and in supporting the likes of the solar farm, electric vehicle charging, support to businesses, etc., etc. Energy security is the key. Dealing with the waste, again, I have to reiterate that again. We need to really think about our waste strategy as an area, as a county. We need to act upon that and not just see it fit to pass that off to other local authorities, other towns and cities. I think we've all got a duty and responsibility to do that, be you a resident, be you a councillor, be you a council officer, be you the MP. I think we've all got an obligation to do that in the current climate. Injection of funding, that's all I can say. We are charged with levelling investment into the town, and that is our aim. We will support the trust. We do contribute, monies to the trust, which is generated from developments, and we'll continue to support the trust so they can support local community groups, local sports clubs, local societies, and local charities. I hope that answers your question. If not, please let me know.
I suppose I'm just I don't understand why, when all the local councillors, bar one, have, fought the recent election on a platform of being against the incinerator, that's obviously shown that the local people in this area don't want it, or the people who voted for the local councillors, they don't want it. And so if Project Genesis is meant to be the to set up to sort of benefit the town, and you're holding that land in trust for the people of this town, surely the people of the town should have the say of how you apply, like what you do with the land. So if your local councillors have been elected on that should show you that local people don't want this. Well,
we're obviously open to suggestions about what you think we would need to regenerate the town. How would we populate Hownsgill without providing all of the support facilities that something like this provides? And long term, how do we deal with our waste issue? How do we deal with our renewable energy requirements and generation?
So if you had a consultation with local people and set out all the different alternatives that there could be, that would be a start, where you're sort of showing that you're listening to the people of Consett. Because at the moment it feels very much like we have no say. This incinerator is going to happen, and it could affect our health and my children's health, which is my main concern. I don't want to live next to something like that, but it feels like this is your Project Genesis that decided this is what's happening, and that's it. And we don't really, the people of Consett who really Project Genesis are meant to serve, isn't interested in our opinion. That's what I think. I think if you as Project Genesis set out various different things that could be put forward in that area, that would give people in the town a choice.
Yeah, fully understand your concerns, Angie. We'd be happy to do that. We'd be happy to, I think I've cited a lot of the potential benefits here, and yeah, I know there's still a lot of concern. We do fully understand that, which is why I'm sitting here tonight. Myself, Project Genesis are open for scrutiny on here. We can only do what we think is right. But yeah, consultation process. We tried to consult. Circumstances haven't been ideal for anybody. I know it's been a very difficult last couple of years, and the timing hasn't obviously been brilliant with COVID and with possibly the lack of conduits for communication. But I take on board fully what you say, and we'll have a think about that, and we'll try and look at some engagement.
Yeah, I think before moving forward with this plan proposal, much more consultation needs to happen with local people. Something like what my local councillors have organised tonight, more things like that before this goes fully, before it gets approved. People in the town should really be much more consulted before it goes ahead. But thank you for answering my question. I'm sure there's other people waiting.
Before we go, Angie, just in our short time as councillors, I've been elected onto one of the planning committees, not the one here, but in a different area of Durham. And what I would say, and I know I've said this to you privately before this session, but just to get it out there to everyone, if you really do feel strongly, and I do like the fact that Mark is absolutely willing to engage with people and communicate more before it goes to planning. I do have to say my short experience on a planning committee, if anyone wants to come along to the planning committee and put forward a case, it is very well listened to by Durham County Council and the planning committee. They do take very seriously what people say. And last time we checked, there were almost 1,500 objections to this, which is really high. So anyone listening, that if you want to speak up, do. But it would be great to have more consultations in the lead up, because what we want to do is work in collaboration as a community, councillors, residents, Project Genesis, and really do what's best for Consett. And this is why we've done this tonight, because it was the best and quickest way that we felt that we could start on that journey together as new councillors. But Angie, thank you very much. There isn't actually anyone else waiting. We did have a list of people invited, but for whatever reason, they've not been able to attend. Feel free to stay on the screen or leave. It's up to you, my love. What I would do, Mark, just before I let you go.
Yeah, Angela, can I just make one statement? Oh, sorry, Angie's gone, but we did put out, I mentioned it earlier in one of my responses, we did put out an information leaflet, a pre-advance notice in August 2020, and that was several months before the application was submitted. That went out to every household in the defined catchment area that Durham gave us, and that is listed on the planning portal. And we received little or no responses to that. So you know, I'm not saying it's disingenuous, but it's not as if we just bulldozed ahead with this without any consultation, any attempted consultation. You know, we did put that consultation letter out. We received very little in the way of responses and in the way of concerns, which is obviously, you know, that moved the consultant team to move forward with the planning application. That's just unfortunate. Hopefully now, you know, obviously, you know, considering some of the comments that I've received tonight, you know, we're happy to engage at any time. And I think, again, anybody has any concerns, you know, Hownsgill Energy website, please pose a question on there. If you need any, you know, technical backup, you know, any empirical data, we'll try and get that across so people are much better informed.
Just to come back to what you said, I believe that initial letter that was sent out, it didn't really, I know you said it was the defined area by Durham County Council, but I don't believe it went very far at all. I mean, I live in a new estate in Delves, and I didn't receive anything like that in August last year, and I don't think very many people knew about this at all, and I think that's another reason that people are so upset, that it just seems to have come out of nowhere. And I know you said that you've sent that leaflet out at the very start, yeah. But I would imagine it probably just went to people near the checkers, really, maybe, and that's
there. And say I would concur with that, because I live near the proposed development, and I did get one of them leaflets in August, Mark, but it was more of a glossy sales brochure, I felt, than you know, now we've got a lot more information, and obviously that's raised a lot more concerns, but that initial document didn't give any indication other than I felt it was a sales pitch. So, and I would agree with what you're saying there, Angie, that I know that other people in Templetown didn't get it. But I think, you know, all of that is valid, and if we can kind of take from this for sure that what Project Genesis Limited are saying is that all questions will be answered. So whether that's come through us tonight or whether people want to get in touch with them directly, they've assured us that questions will be answered. We've already established that they're going to get some more information that they've used tonight to give us facts and figures. They'll make that available to us so that everybody's got it. And, you know, the planning date is not set. Despite what people are saying, it's definitely not set. It won't be before September. It might go on after that. But we would hope, perhaps, Mark and Project Genesis Limited, that if the opportunity was afforded to you before the planning committee, you could actually organise your own event, you know, in a public place, so that more people could access it and therefore get information that they would like.
Yeah, fully understand. Yeah, not a problem. Like I say, just to reiterate, the Hownsgill Energy Centre, if you put that in your search engine, that'll prompt the site, and there's a question and answer page on there. You can just upload your questions, and we'll be able to respond to that, and that can go out in the public domain.
Thank you. Angie, any last comments?
No, that's everything. Thank you.
Mark, we've just had mostly on YouTube tonight, we just had comments, but there are a couple of questions buried in there. Are you happy for us to display them on the screen and so you can come at them straight away rather than later?
Well, yes, but I mean, again, you know, it's if the technological, I might have to refer back to the technical team, and otherwise, if I can't answer them within my my knowledge, yeah.
Person, this is actually Kathy. She's using Sarah's account. She's asking, will there be a new energy company that is also owned by Project Genesis or Dystart?
No, the new energy company would be tied in to the provider by virtue they can then manage and broker the energy. Fusion for Business will be an integral part of that, and will likely be a strategic partner in that as things stand. But it is early days as to who the investor in that will be. But it will not be Project Genesis, and it will not be Dysart.
Okay, thank you. And then the rest are all statement. Oh, sorry, there's one more question than this. So how big was the catchment area? Rachel says she lives very close, but she never received
Right. The public consultation notice, and what I'll do, Angela, I'll actually flick this through to you, a copy of this to you. It was sent out I think it's week commencing the 1st of September. It was dated the 27th of August. All of the addresses to where that information leaflet was to go are actually posted on the council planning portal. So if your address is on that portal, you should have received one of these leaflets. And obviously we'd arranged that. So I'd be interested to know if you didn't.
I think it's something as well that I'd be quite keen to bring up with Durham County Council.
Yeah. Can I also confirm the leaflet that went out more recently?
Yeah.
I'm taking everybody who's responded here received one of those leaflets. The booklet, the A5 booklet, yeah?
I live very close to Angie and I received it.
Right, okay. That's reassuring.
Good. I think that maybe they should widen the statutory area somewhat. And this is the final one, Mark. Why does Consett have to take responsibility for Durham and other areas waste? Why Consett? Why not elsewhere? I think the point of this is that in Consett we feel often very aggrieved that we're the poor relation, for example, to Durham city centre.
Right. Well, firstly, Consett has not taken responsibility for Durham's waste and other areas of waste. The defined catchment area around this plant is probably a maximum of 10 radial miles. So the RDF generated is going to come from our area, and the procurement, methods that are set up are that it's private waste management companies who operate in the Northwest Durham area, and that they're the only companies that we are currently talking to. As regards Durham's directives and what Durham do, I think that question needs to be posed to the council. If you refer back to the county plan, there's a defined statement in the county plan which basically says that we should be dealing with our recycling as a county, and where possible, we should be dealing with our waste management within the county. But they do have a cross-boundary integration clause which says we can interact with other counties in the region to manage our waste. I fully get that because some counties mightn't have the facilities to do this. But everybody seems to be putting their stealth in sending everything to Teesside. And whilst Teesside might say that's great, we accept that. Teesside are going to get the benefit of creating heat and power from this, which can only support Teesside businesses who are in competition with businesses in Northwest Durham. And I think we've got to ask ourselves, is that the right thing to do?
Okay, thank you. And I think that brings all the questions to an end. Thank you very much. Michelle, I think you've got one very important question to finish with.
It's my usual question that I asked you the last time. On behalf of our residents, can you give consideration to withdrawing this application, please?
You put me on the spot there. That was not one of the questions you were going to ask. I'll have to reserve judgment on that. I'm sorry, but I think we need to continue with the consultation process, and we need to demonstrate the benefits of what this brings and the real impact, or the limit of the impact that this is going to have on the town. I think the scaremongering that's been going on, the say no signs that have been plastered up around the town, the fact that these people won't engage with us to have a reasoned discussion, it just doesn't err. And again, we feel we are bringing this forward, to the benefit of certainly the Hownsgill site and hopefully to the benefit of the town. We've got to look forward, and that's what we're trying to do.
And we have to say as well, we're disappointed that a representative for the Say No campaign hasn't stepped up this evening. We're disappointed that other councillors haven't taken part. And I think Michelle might have a thing or two to add, but I would just like to finish by saying thank you to everyone who's watched. It's been a long evening. Thank you, Mark, for your really detailed responses and the time you've given over. We've been live now for 2 hours, and it's very much appreciated. Any final remarks?
Yeah,
Michelle?
well, I would just like what you said there, Mark. It's for a lot of people in concert to know that although there is not a public consultation as yet where people can get lots of information, it's very important that people know that you will answer the questions. It's important for us that if we tell people to contact you, you will provide full information to them, so that they can be reassured by what you're saying or otherwise. You know, we've spoke to a lot of people who just don't want it. Some people will think about it. You know, there's lots of variations on what people are wanting, but we would hope that by doing this tonight, we've made a connection or a pathway for all of them people to get to you or to Project Genesis Limited to ask anything, and then, you know, be open and honest with your responses to them.
Yeah, appreciate that, and thank you, councillors, for holding the event. I think it's been very useful, very helpful. I hope we've got our message across to some, if not to all. Like I say, we are here in the best interests of, you know, the Genesis site. We're in the best interest of concert. I'd like to think we demonstrate that, because we work very hard to you know, to do what we do, to leave our interest in. From a personal point of view, I'm a concert lad. I was born here. I grew up with the steelworks. I went on the march to keep the steelworks open, and I do care.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. And just keep an eye out for all of the information. We'll put links in the YouTube, but we'll be putting out a blog post on our website tomorrow with all of the bits and pieces we've got, and we'll keep adding to that as and when Project Genesis send things to us. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.